All right, we're now live. The Mighty Titan is what I've called the podcast for today. You've actually filled in for me. I reached out to like 5 fucking people, and believe it or not, I rather didn't get a response back, or they just, didn't have the availability when they said they would. So thanks for being here, man.
Hey, no problem. No problem at all. I am like hit or miss. I was a little upset on Saturday morning. We had Crypto View on Friday that jumped on for the second half of Faz Radio. And he was telling me about the patio. And he's like, oh, yeah, we do it Saturdays at 10. And so I was drinking vodka that night on Friday night. And I kept drinking vodka after the show, and I slept right through his show. So I was hoping to jump onto that and see that. I will absolutely be there for his show next Saturday, though. The vodka got the best of me on Friday night, and I slept I slept until almost 1 o'clock my time. It was terrible.
You must be one of the privileged ones, because I've had nearly every one of those guys on my podcast, and I still haven't got an invite. So I don't know if it's they're a little bit scared to have a really high professional like myself being on the podcast and take it.
No, see, I owe them about 10 apiece, because they've jumped on many times onto Faz Radio, and it's been a wonderful time every time. We give CryptoView crap about his XRP all the time. I like XRP, but I get stuck. I keep telling him we got to schedule something so he can teach everybody how to use it.
Man, I love nothing more than stirring up View about XRP.
Yeah, he's passionate about that, man. There is no doubt about it.
And I'll say real agitating things about it as well. Like it should have been called a hope coin, and you know what I mean?
So it surprises me with all the use that they talk about with that it's not really, they talk about it, but I don't see it being actually used. And so it makes me wonder. I mean, I think everybody's still afraid of it with the lawsuits and everything else that's gone on, because it does make a perfect use case for exactly what they say, that intermediary, instant money transfer and all that. It's got to be liquid on both sides, though, and that's what he's trying to explain to us. And I just don't see it yet. I need to learn how to use it.
Well, it's one of those things, man. Like, you can have a Lamborghini, you can go through all the specs, all the rest of the shit, but at the end of the day, if you go over, 50 kilometers an hour, you're going to get pulled over and booked. So as soon as these things end up coming out with too many features, and it becomes a threat to like reserve banks and all the rest of it, like they're just going to do everything they can to knock that on the head. It's like XRP for a long time. They had like pretty much saying that they were affiliated with Australian banks and they were testing the technology. Well, they did that, but they weren't partnered with them. And after no time at all, they had instant transactions between different bank branches. So like even different companies like ANZ between Westpac and Commonwealth Bank and all the rest of it. So they pretty much used their technology, stole the idea, made it a fiat version, and now we've got instant transactions.
They have something similar they're working on over here called FedNow, and that's supposed to be the same thing. We don't need a lot of that anymore. And they're doing whatever they can to hang on to the control of the money supply.
Mm-hmm.
This whole, there's too much, I think, right now. And what I mean by that is you have Cardano that can do that. You have Bitcoin, you have Lightning, you have XRP, you have Litecoin, you have 10,000 other ones at the same time. How are they supposed to test all these and figure out which is the best one to use? And even if they wanted to use it, that debases the fiat for them. So it seems like they're just playing a shell game to maybe keep people quiet or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, being from the, like having the interested in more the gaming background and all the rest of it with NFTs, etc. It's like everything's got to be seamless. You know what I mean? So like even in the like if we want to implement these different XRP or Cardano or anything, it's got to be on the back end of a big product, in my opinion, like something like Adidas or even Windows or something like that, where you're actually transacting in this cryptocurrency, but the user really doesn't know. You know what I mean? So it's more of like a gotcha sort of thing.
There's a token that I was in for a long time that was doing just that, and it was AMP, and what they had partnered with Gemini to start testing all that and using it, and all it is an intermediary token like that, where it just provides the value, and you would stake your token to give the liquidity and all that kind of stuff. And nothing has come of it. It started out as a really good idea, and then it just kind of fizzled right out. We talked a little about this on the show the other night. We didn't go too far in depth, but I think you've kind of hit the nail on the head there with them not knowing that it's there. But there's a lot of problems, right? So getting somebody, just your average off the street person who doesn't know much about crypto, to try and remember a seed phrase and to not put it in their computer. And the security, they're going to forget it. They're going to lose it. They're going to switch phones, and they're going to not be able to find their seed phrase, and all their money is going to be locked forever. I mean, they do have to come up with a better way that's just as secure. And I think that until that becomes a mainstay that's proven, it's going to be really, really hard to onboard people into doing stuff with that.
Yeah. Well, it'd be like, even if you're using one of these different platforms or ecosystems or whatever, like if it was integrated into a big company and all it said was, fast transactions provided by XRP, like, do you get what I'm saying? Like, who cares what goes on in the back end? Like, how many people nerd out over this shit? Like, even like in generalized gaming or anything at all, man. Like, even if you want to talk about cars, like most people drive them, but who really cares how it works?
I picked that up in your cast the other day. That was a really good analogy. So I think Strike Wallet that uses Lightning and Bitcoin does that. I've been using that for quite a long time. I can DCA in there hourly into Bitcoin, which I absolutely love. I just dump a wad of cash in there every payday, and every hour it buys sats. I mean, I think that's fantastic, and it's quick and easy to use, but there's always a gotcha somewhere. And when you buy your Bitcoin, you're losing 1 to 2% of it in spread, right? So there's no fees to use it, but when you buy it, you're losing a little bit there. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with a reasonable fee to conduct stuff like that, but then I can't use it anywhere else. I can't go and use Strike to pay my copay at the doctor's office, or to go up and pick up lunch, or whatever the case may be. If they get that working well, there's your back end, there's your intermediary. That works out just fine. There's no phrases to remember. It's simple email login. It's fantastic.
Yeah. So being a financial guy, man, like, and having that sort of history, like traditional markets, they're manipulated. Like, that's a guarantee. Like, how badly manipulated do you think the generalized crypto scene is? Like, I think Bitcoin's now worth over $1 trillion or something in AED. I'm not sure what the conversion is to USD, but like, do you think that's essentially being regulated and manipulated by the same people that regulate everything else in the world?
I don't think yet. I think they're trying to figure out how to do it. And that's why they're pushing hard for these ETFs, the exchange traded funds, because then they can. And they can rehypothecate, and they can, just like these big exchanges here that have gotten busted recently for saying they had so many Bitcoin and they actually didn't. I think that's what is going to happen as well. And there's going to have to be some super close auditing there. That's the problem for them, is that it's very auditable. You know where all the Bitcoin are. You can trace every one of the 20 million that are out there right now. You can, or I think it's 19 and a half or something like that. You can trace them all down. You know where they are. And after a while, all these regulated places are going to disclose what they have, and it's going to add up to more than 21 million, and then there's going to be a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, I get what you're saying. So, like, what do I actually want to ask you? Because I have a specific question, but I don't know how to word it. You know how you got it in your head and it sounds good, and you're
Right?
So, like, in Australia, like, I've got a lot of superannuation accounts. I'm sure that's a thing over there as well, is it?
What kind of account?
Superannuation. You haven't heard of that?
Never heard that word before.
Oh, okay. So in Australia, like, and I'll say it as being a business owner, like with my employees, I got to pay them their hourly rate. I got to pay I got to pay their tax, and then I've got to pay their superannuation, which is a cost on my end. So it might be like 5% of what they've earned for that week. I've got to pay into superannuation, which goes into an account that they can't access until they're like 75. So it's like a retirement fund, but we call it
Yes.
superannuation.
It's called Social Security here.
Okay, Social Security. I thought Social Security was like for people that didn't have employment. Or is that a different thing again?
No, that's different. So they've expanded it. There's like Social Security disability. If you get hurt at work, you can pull into the Social Security disability fund. But Social Security in itself is for retirement. And like for people like me, and they break it up into age groups. If you were born between this year and this year, you can retire at 67, right? And you'll get a certain amount a month until you die. And then you can make elections and say, you know what, give me a reduced amount, but then pass more on to my wife if I kick the bucket.
Okay.
So it's paid for by both ends, by the employee and by the employer. So each make contributions into that Ponzi scheme. And then at the end, no, listen, so it absolutely is a Ponzi scheme. So you pay into that during your working years, and depending on how much you've earned, they take, last I heard, and I haven't been up on this in years, so I'm assuming it's the same. It's like your best 5 income years out of your last 10 is what they use to calculate your benefit.
Yeah.
And so, it's ridiculous. You make good money your whole life and you end up with $2,000 a month in retirement. If you would have taken the contributions from the employer and the employee and just put those into an exchange type of fund and even get 6, 7, 8% guaranteed over time, you'd have enough to take out $5,000 or $6,000 a month. So it absolutely is a Ponzi. I don't know what they do with that money, but they're not giving it back to the people. You're paying in way more than you're getting out of it.
Well, the way it works over here in Australia, and like obviously I've never been able to access it because I'm too young, but like you can essentially get it as a cash payout. But then we've got Centrelink here, which is like I guess like unemployment benefits and pension and all the rest of the stuff, which is like maybe $400 to $800 per fortnight. But they will make sure that nest egg is spent before they'll let you access other benefits through them. So it's like a payout. But the reason I'm bringing it up is because around 2 weeks ago, I've got like 5 superannuation accounts, and one, like as yourself, I think it's bullshit because just for the fact that if we go to war, like the government itself can just like pull as much super as they want if it's like for our safety. Do you know what I mean? So like there's little caveats like that where you might not get it. Plus they keep pushing it back. It was like 60 years old. I think it's like 75. And it's like, well, by the time I'm fucking 75, it'll probably be 90. Like then where's it going? So I ended up getting like 5 separate letters from different superannuation accounts saying that you've now got the option to essentially use a percentage of what you got saved to put into cryptocurrency. So
nice.
That's why I thought, like, I wonder if they're doing that over there. But once again, like everything's different. You know what I mean?
When we had one of the Bushes, and I think it was W, the son, he wanted to privatize the Social Security and allow you to kind of transform that egg that you have there into into a personal account that was only for retirement, but that never flew. They don't want you to have control of the money. They want to control the money. I think that would be a very good idea and a very bad idea, right? Because if people do have access to it early, they're going to spend it all, and then they're screwed come retirement time, and where they can't work or whatever. But at the same time, the return that you're getting on what you're putting in is absolutely atrocious, and then it goes away when you die. You can't pass any of that on except to your spouse, and then it's a reduced amount. And they have a choice. If they're getting their own Social Security because they worked and that one's higher, they're not going to get both. They just get the higher of the two. It's a ridiculous plan.
Well, they're even thinking of having like a deceased tax. So like if I died tomorrow and I wanted to pass everything over to my son, it might be like 10% will go to the government. So I pay tax my whole life and then I pay it when I die.
Yep. Yeah, for people who have a substantial amount of money, it's called the estate tax here. The limits are pretty high. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm not in that bracket where I'm going to have to worry about anything, at least today. Because it's several $100,000 that you get exemptions for this and exemptions for that, and if it's in a trust, it doesn't count. I mean, you can finagle it any which way. But the theft that takes place from these taxes that doesn't come back into the economy is absolutely ridiculous. I've told the story before. So you see all these news articles where, Mark Zuckerberg, the head of Facebook, right? He doesn't take a salary. He has no salary. And it makes you feel good, right? He's doing this out of the goodness of his heart. Well, the reason that happens is because if you take a salary, you get stuck in a tax bracket. And with being the CEO of Facebook, it would be expected he would get millions, which would put him in the highest tax bracket here, which is like 39%, right? So he'd get taxed on every earning that he made. So if he had stock and he didn't hold it for at least a year, that's considered income. So anything he sold within a year would be taxable at 39%. So what they do is they don't take any salary. They take these stock options and they leave them sit for a certain period of time. And after that, it's taxed at a capital gains rate. And that long-term capital gains rate is commensurate to your regular income tax bracket. So they're paying less than 10% on whatever billions they cash in this stock because it's considered a long-term capital gain. And the government doesn't collect a lot of tax revenue for them. And that's where you hear people saying, hey, it's not fair that the rich aren't paying their fair share. Well, anybody can do that. I mean, but you have to have your own business. You have to work it a certain way. But it's tough, man, because there's just loopholes upon loopholes, and that is a problem because there's not as many loopholes for people down here in the middle class as there are for business owners or anything else. So get yourself a business, if nothing else, than for the tax benefits you can get out of it.
Well, like over here, if you have a company, the company's tax bracket's a flat rate of 25%. So,
oh yeah, you were telling me that, I think.
Yeah, but if I earn over 120,000 in personal income tax, you're getting up around the 33% mark. So you're better off just running everything through the company. The CEO needs a house, so the company owns it. The
right.
CEO needs a car or a personal chef, so they're more efficient. You know what I mean? Like there's so many different things. And like you're saying, like with the family trusts and all the different stuff you can do, you can literally have it like a big spider web where everything just goes here, like super complicated, system that you can build so you don't have to pay taxes.
Well, I do think some taxes are needed, right? Because we want certain services. The community that I live in is called a township. And the township gets funded through property taxes and little taxes here and there. And for a long time, it was probably shortly before I moved in here about 10 years ago.
Mhm.
They voted out the police department because they were charging them too much money.
They voted out the
So
police department.
yeah, they did. They said we're not paying for police anymore here.
Yeah.
And so we got put under the county sheriff, and it was taking because they're in a town that's about 16 miles away. So they would only come out here if there was a call. So it was like 45 minutes, right? You could be getting killed in your house by some wacko with a knife, and you had nothing for 45 minutes, right?
Mhm.
My garage has marks on it because, of course, the criminals knew that. And so I have crowbar marks on my garage because there was one summer where there was attempted break-ins everywhere because the criminals were like, this is ridiculous. Even if somebody calls the cops on us, it's going to take them 45 minutes to get here. We'll be long gone by then. So they finally, it was like 2 years ago in our neighboring, that's one that's actually a city. We're in Perry Township and they're in Perry City. And we came up, the taxpayers finally said, okay, we give up. We went through the crime wave. How about you hire like 2 extra officers? We'll pay for that. And you send them over here into the township, and they'll be the township police, and we'll try this again. And it's been working out fantastic. I don't mind paying a couple of bucks in taxes. My taxes went up maybe $150 a year. I don't mind that, knowing that there's at least 2 cops going to be here. So to me, that's worth it. Small things like that. But the ridiculousness of federal tax, state tax, you pay tax on your fuel, your gasoline. You pay property taxes. You pay sales taxes. I mean, it's like ridiculous. You get 60-70% of your income gets pulled in taxes by the time you're done.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, man. Like where I am now, like I won't give away too much, but just say there's a massive industry here that essentially runs the whole country. And like we'll have like roads with potholes in them, and it's just like atrocious sometimes, like to the point where your suspension and everything on your car's getting ruined. But then they'll send all that money off to the capital city. So they've got all nice, lush things and all the rest of it, but nothing trickles down to us. But yet we're the ones that are paying for majority of their shit. You know what I mean? So
the potholes are the same here. And see, here's the thing is this is 2023, right? So you would think at this point they would have the technology to make concrete that lasts more than 4 years. And they don't. Why? Because they get the cheapest that they can get, and it's planned obsolescence. Those contractors need a job 4 years from now too to redo the roads that they just built, and repairs on those roads. They need to make money. There's a lot of good things about capitalism and a lot of not good things, and you run into that planned obsolescence, and of course everything always goes up. So it's a terrible cycle to be in.
So you use like cement or concrete for your roads?
Vast majority of them, yeah.
Because we use like tar on ours.
Yeah, it's called asphalt here. They call it asphalt, and like my street that runs out here, they just redid a few years ago in the asphalt. But as soon as you get out of the local neighborhood, it's all concrete cement.
Well, you use that shit on your roofs as well, don't you? Asphalt roofs or something.
Well, yeah, they use the asphalt tiles. They're like little flaps, and they layer them over and over all the way up the roof. They last, if you pay for good quality, it'll go about 20 years.
Yeah, so we use Colorbond mostly, so it's all just tin or steel.
Right. Well, that's a big thing here. It's a big rage here. My neighbor across the street just got the metal roofing. And so it looks fantastic, and I'm sure it's going to last a heck of a long time. That stuff doesn't rust.
Yeah. Well, we'll try not to talk about roofs and everything, but...
Hey, you know what? Conversations go in all kinds of different directions, and we're both the type that'll talk about anything.
Yeah, that's right. People come on here. Like, it's funny, man, because like I've seen when you do your podcast with Faz, and you talk about the... more like the money side of things and, how stuff works. And you'll say that it's boring. But to me, that's the most interesting stuff,
Well, and that's purely based on numbers, and what we'll see is we'll have like, we'll talk about games or certain companies, during the beginning, and that's where the majority of the people who watch us come from. So we'll have a whole bunch of people on, 20, 25 people watching us live. And then we'll get into this like tax and regulations and what's going on in the politics of crypto. And I'm literally watching in the corner of StreamYard. I'm watching the numbers just drop and drop and drop. And if you go back, because we have 3 years worth of shows in there, there's a couple hundred episodes. And you go back to all the ones that are like finance or regulation or stuff like that, save one or two of those where we really hit the nail on the head. Absolute worst performing podcasts that we have to this day.
Yeah. Because people just don't care, man. They want the hopium.
Yeah.
Just make it go up.
Well, they did. They got spoiled, man, in those bear markets that we experienced. They still bring this up in the cast once in a while. I made the analogy. I said, during that bull run, and this was absolutely true for everybody's portfolio, you could take and put a wall of those bubble charts of any crypto up on your wall and throw a dart and buy that and double your money in 2 weeks, right? So people got into this habit of whatever I put my money into, it's going to double. And there have been people that have made comments. They're like, oh yeah, I'm looking for, anything with a dot and 3 zeros, and I'm just going to put money in it because it's brand new. I'm like, really? That's your strategy? It's
like,
bad.
Because it's all capital gains tax here. Like if I was daily trading, like I got to pay 50% of the profit, So if you're doing it that way, like you have to be up by a lot before you can just start flipping around and selling it all.
Yeah, they have a difference here. It's long term and short term. So if you hold it or sell it or do anything with it within 12 months, it's considered short term, and that amount just gets added to your income as regular income, and you're taxed at your regular income rate, whatever that is. And if you hold it for more than 12 months, there's a chart, and it gives you a huge discount on the taxes for those long-term capital gains. So you want to hold everything, unless it's super moons, you want to hold everything for at least a year before you get rid of it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's pretty similar here with the capital gains tax, because like the first 12 months, like 50%. And then if you hold it for like around 3 years, I think you'd be under like the 20-something%.
Nice.
So, but like if you're like, I've seen so many people like in the last bull market coming out of a bear, and they were traders, and a lot of them within like after the financial year when they had to pay the tax man were like, oh guys, I fucked up,
right?
Because they just didn't know, you know what I mean? And they spent money they didn't have, so they're making all these mega profits and going out and buying bullshit cars that depreciate with value and buying properties and living large like kings, and then didn't pay their due diligence to the taxman, Well,
not only that, they think crypto's anonymous, right? So they're not claiming some of their big wallets, and they're just trying to avoid it that way. Like, oh, they'll never be able to trace this address back to me. And they're, at least here, they're really stupid. The authorities are really stupid when it comes to crypto at this point, unless you're a really, really, really big whale. We've seen the stories in the Discord, people are like, oh yeah, they were questioning me about this. I had to educate them on that. And, Faz is like really big into the tax thing. He spends like 12 months a year doing taxes. And, when questions come up, he's educating the tax people there. He's like, no, that's not how that works, actually. So they're still stupid on it, which makes it even worse. So people think they can get away with not claiming it and all that. I put everything in there. I throw everything into the tax software, look at it, make sure all my accounts are in there, and I'm whatever you say, and I push the button.
Yeah. Well, so you just need to be mega rich, and then you'll be all right, man. You just won't be paying taxes at all.
Well, I hope to be there someday. Absolutely. I'm far better off now than I was back when I was big into the financial stuff and using regular markets. Um, and after GM and the government, I won't go back into the stock market for any length of time. I was saying a couple weeks ago, I got a surprise. I had bought right when COVID started. See, my finance kicked in, and I had a couple $1,000s sitting around doing nothing. This was before crypto and everything else. And so I took and I threw it in there, and I bought airline stocks and I bought oil stocks. I'm like, I'm watching them. They're tanking. I'm like, there's no way these airlines are going out of business. There's no way the oil companies are going out of business. And I'm getting them at a third of the cost that they were 2 weeks ago. So I sat on them, and over time I liquidated them. But there was one I had left, and I think it was either Southwest or American Airlines. And I bought it, I think it was American, and I bought it at like $9 a share. And it was at like 26 or 27 when I finally sold it on that long term. And that was like easy picking. So that was the last of the actual money in the stock market that I had. And I just pulled it out and it went straight back into crypto. I know what I'm doing over there. And I know if I'm careful, no one's going to steal it from me.
Yeah. Going into the when there was lockdowns and all the rest of it, man, there was a guy in Australia, he filled up his whole shed full of sanitizer. So he brought like crates and crates of it. And everyone was like in the big rush to go get their sanitizer and their mask. And he was selling it for like, like 100% more than what it was worth, just for the fact that people wanted it near. I think that guy ended up going to jail.
Yeah.
Because it was price gouging.
Yeah.
And this is a guy
they were doing that with a lot of things. It's absolutely crazy what they did during all that, and the pricing. We had to run on toilet paper here, believe it or not. You couldn't get your hands on any toilet paper, and it's like stupid. Why of all things, why toilet paper? Makes no sense. That was just, they saw one person started it by loading up toilet paper. Another person saw it and figured they better get some, and then by the time these stores were filling up, people were taking videos of all these people with toilet paper in their carts. Nationwide, everybody's like, I better get some before it all goes away. And you have a run on toilet paper. Go figure.
Here we go. I'm gonna call out Zara on this one because I wanted to get your opinion on it anyway. So Zara ended up putting a post up on X. Just let me. Do you care if I just quickly try to find it and read it to you?
No, go ahead.
He done one of his notorious Zara quotes. He said, "How many AI will be enough to solve human problems?" And I said, maybe we don't understand real problems until AI creates them. If you disagree, you're wrong with a wink face. He goes, I understand your natural reaction as a human and already assume that our problems belong to someone else. We will see if the theory is valid. Right? So what's your thoughts so far? And then I'll tell you what I responded. You're muted, man.
Sorry, I think it'll both create and solve problems. I don't know which is going to be the majority, though. I think at first it'll probably create more problems.
Yeah. I said in general, Western nations like to create problems to have hardship. The first world isn't prepared. AI and what it produces, if in the realm of negativity, is a human-made problem that we may be unable to navigate. And then Zara said, AI is a worldwide topic of responsibility. These technologies will not have sovereign to any specific countries. And essentially what I said was, and this is the part I want you to have an opinion on, I said, who's making the technology? Who's programming it? It's all located in the USA. You can use what's available to the public as a citizen of the world. That is true. But those who can access all its features are the owners of said American companies. The exact same people who don't give a shit about us near are the very same people who control it.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. And we just touched on this the other night, talking about AI too, because whoever programs each of these models, right? Because there's a couple of different ones. There's OpenAI, there's Claude, there's Google Bard, there's a whole bunch of these. And whoever puts the learning model into it, they typically call that an LLM, which is where Sherpa changed his name. Those learning language models, whoever has their bias is going to be what they're spitting out to people who are looking for answers. And the problem is that people like you and me, right? Us idiots who are jumping into this AI thing automatically assume there's this stereotype already set that the AI is smarter than us. Mm-hmm. So people who consume that information are going to have the same bias and think that information is absolute, without question, the right answer. And that's really dangerous, I think.
Well, as a user through a subscription system, so they keep making money paying their employees, like we can get on there and it's an efficient search engine or whatever. But for them, you don't know what's on in the back end. Like if they just go, oh, glitch for a gaming on X, I want to know who this person is. And then, it can run the algorithm and crunch it through the AI. Well, they might be able to find everything about me, from addresses to, medical history to the whole thing. And that's what I was trying to explain to Zorro, is that, these technologies are going to be compartmentalized from what features are available to us and what's available to them. And they don't give two shits, like they don't near, about the third world. And, like it's the same, like if Microsoft buys half of the biggest AI company in the world, that's a fucking problem for everyone.
It is. It is. And so that is something, and I was talking with Forged in Crypto about this, because there's a token that I still hold. Let me pull up my coin stats here. And it's a identity company, and they're building something to where everything is compartmentalized, right? So you'll put like your personal data, your name, your address, your phone number in one container, and you'll have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different containers under this token. Mm-hmm. And what you can do then is only release information based on what you need it for. So if you're going to an exchange, right, to buy crypto, and they want to KYC you, you can take your KYC container and provide that to them with your token, and they'll accept it, and they have the KYC, they know it's correct, but they don't have access to all these other containers. And that is something that I think is fantastic. Oh, here it is. It's called My DID, My Digital ID, My DID. It's the SYL token. And they were one that I found when I was looking for the ID management, because I do think that ID management is going to be a huge sector, and I think they're going to tie that right in with AI as well. That when that gets solved, and they can put that security barrier there, you may then be able to have a container to where you can store things like cryptographic keys and things like that, to where you can just authorize it with a token. And that way you don't have to expose your seed phrase or your security algorithm. You can just use a token, a one-time use token, to validate that into whatever wallet you're using. And I think that's going to be really, really big if they can get it to work. The problem is you don't know if it works until you start playing around with it.
Yeah. Well, I flicked a question up just a second ago. So Zorro said, chip AI is the pillars of the Gen AI. China has the mass production of chip AI, dominated the market for 90%. In response to your question on who created this technology, China. I'm not talking about who created the technology. I'm saying who's got market share near. Like, you're always going to have countries that are going to try to build these technologies, but if you look at it as anything other than suppression for its people, like, that's all it is. It's just another tool that they can use to control.
I could see that with that's really what they want. They don't care how they get it. They just want the ability to control the rails somehow. They don't have to control the money if they control the rails.
Yeah.
And if they control your ID somehow, they control the rails. And it doesn't matter how things run. Right now, Faz has been arguing for a while now, and I used to poo-poo him with this and tell him he was full of shit. But the more I'm thinking about it, I hate to admit when he's right, but I do kind of have to admit that he's right. He's been saying for years now, he goes, they don't have to regulate Bitcoin. They don't have to regulate the token. They just have to regulate the on-ramp and the off-ramp.
Yeah.
And if they can control either or both ends of that, it doesn't matter the technology behind the token. And he brought up another point that I poo-pooed him on. I'm still arguing with him on this one, though. And he said, even if, let's say you can't do that. He goes, take it one layer higher. They control the internet. So they can shut the rails off to the internet or meter or block or intercept data as you're trying to transmit it so they can control it that way. And that's why you see a lot of these, if you're following Twitter, crypto Twitter pretty closely, they're doing offline transactions. That's the new big thing, is how to get offline transactions to work with NFC or Bluetooth, just in case the internet happens to go down for something. And trying to increase the range on that using cell towers or Starlink or whatever. They're trying to put those in place so if something does happen like that, that there's going to be a way around it that's already ready and tested.
Yeah. Well, say, like, I don't know if it's just like I'm a pessimist and I'm also someone that gets fearful of things before I sort of get more of an understanding and acceptance. And I think that's a good defense mechanism. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to, look at a snake and go, oh, I'll just use my optimism and go up and just remove it from my backyard. Like, I'm going to get rid of that thing no matter what without touching it. So that's a survival mechanism. This is what I'm worried about. Now, say if you want to bring out a digital ID or you want to bring out a digital currency and you're an official in the government and you want to push this through, like, let's say a president or a prime minister, and you go talk to the AI and you say, I want you to crunch the numbers on all the different parties. I want you to crunch the numbers on the best terminology to use. And I want you to break this down into steps. And I want you to give me speeches that I can say to the people, which essentially slowly leads them into this without causing as many, what would you say, like protests?
Dissenters?
Dissenters as possible. Like, that's a massive, powerful tool to be used just in that regard. And that's only just one point. Do you know what I mean? So I don't trust it. I've listened to Faz many times and he says AI is a tool. I think he's the tool in the fact that he's teaching that thing as well. This code here does this, but how could I improve it? Well, you got all these thousands of people writing the same thing or something similar. Well, then the AI can pick up and it can improve the code. Well, it's only getting the information that it's received though, isn't it? So we all become the learning mechanism of the AI.
That is a very valid point. And of course, especially in these early days, they're going to collect every ounce of data that they can get from every person, right? And they also, even that personality profiling, right? Because if they can if they get to that AGI state to where it's autonomous and it learns about you, it will learn how to manipulate you. It will know what words and what phrases and what your weaknesses are, so it could be used nefariously against you. Absolutely. It can manipulate you to do whatever it wants. That's why you see a lot of pushback from people like Elon Musk wanting that to be the open source, wanting more models to be added, and you don't want that secretive back end like OpenAI has become and some of these others. It is a tool for the people creating it, absolutely.
Cool. Well, we'll finish it up anyway, man. Is there any last words you want to say on AI that might be like a more of a cryptic sort of a thought?
Yeah, so I am a lot like you in the fact that my brain never shuts off, and I come at it from that protected mode as well. I wouldn't say pessimist, but I look at it skeptically. I look at everything skeptically first. I try and poke as many holes in something at first as I can, and that's a defense mechanism because I've gone through periods of fantastic wealth and extreme poverty in my life. And the pain of those times where I was in the poverty is way more painful than the problems you have when you have money. So that's why I come at things the way that I do is I want to make sure that I'm poking holes in it so that I don't make stupid decisions that puts me back in poverty. So when I take that approach into AI, I look at it skeptically. I tend to use the AI to just improve what I'm capable of already. That's how I use the tool. Now, this is brand new. That could change. I could use it differently down the road. But I would say to use it as the tool that it is. I write a paragraph, right? Like I redesigned my website. So I knew what I wanted to say, but it sounds not so great. And I take that paragraph and I throw it into the AI and I say, use this tone. I want lighthearted and I want a sixth grader to be able to understand it. I want it to be succinct and I want it to get the same message across, improve this text, hit enter. And it gives me something and you just go, wow, that's really freaking good now. So that's how I use the AI. And that's all I'll be using it for until I poke some more holes in it. So I would say explore with it, learn about it, because if you don't learn about it and understand what it's capable of, you're going to fall behind the curve and you're not going to know when it's trying to manipulate you. You've got to get to know your enemy.
I've played with it a bit myself, and I don't know if I'm like special in this regard, but I argue with it all the time. So yeah. I'll just leave it at that anyway. But thanks all for dropping in. Thanks for coming in last minute for the pod, man. And if you don't mind hanging around for a couple of minutes as usual, that'd be great.
Of course. Thanks for having me, Glitch. I love talking to you any chance I get.
No, thanks, man.